The Priest Isaac's Institute of Holistic Knowledge presents an international homeschool program that offers African heritage, biology, astronomy, language arts, yoga, and much more. Our classes are created with the young ones in mind, and we cater to youths from kindergarten to high school. Children love our colorful and very animated lessons, while parents recommend it to friends and family. Contact us for a free preview and see for yourself why investing in the International Homeschool Program will be of great benefit to you and your young ones. Blessings. From the makers of the Master of Ceremonies, Seven, and the Night of the Black Tiger. From the heart of the kingdom of Kush, the lion-headed god, Apedemek. The conquering lion hath prevailed. In the Master of Ceremonies, the Institute's first full-length video documentary. The Divinity of Emperor Haile Selassie I was presented with clear, prophetic utterances aligned with accepted historical events. the legendary and esoteric Kemetic Neter deity, Asar, also called Osiris, was shown to have strong similarities in his mythological story with the actual lifetime in our presence of Emperor Haile Selassie I. Asar, the man and the concept, was born in ancient Kush, Ethiopia. Haile Selassie I, the man, was born 16 Hamle, Ethiopian calendar, 23rd of July 1892, Western calendar, Hara, Ethiopia, ancient Kush. Like many mythological Messiah type figures, for example the Christ of the scriptures, Asar became a man at the age of 13. Historically, the same can be said of Emperor Haile Selassie I, who was made the Dejemak, the keeper of the gate, and governor at the age of 13 when he was fully 12. At the coronation of Asar, Osiris, 72 individuals came to crown him King of the world. On the 2nd of November 1930, Emperor Haile Selassie I was coronated King of Kings, Lord of Lords, conquering Lion of Judah. 72 nations were represented at this event. At Osiris's coronation, he was attacked, placed in a coffin, and eventually cut into 16 pieces. It took him exactly 5 years before he was resurrected and became the constellation of Sahu, the Orion constellation. It was exactly 5 years, the 5th of May 1936 to the 5th of May 1941, that Haile Selassie I was absent from the throne of Ethiopia officially. This was during the Italian-Ethiopian War, when Ethiopia was unjustly attacked by Benito Mussolini. Article 16 of Collective Security of the League of Nations of that time was abandoned. Article 16. Osiris was cut into 16 pieces by the 72 that came to his coronation, like the 72 that came to the coronation of the emperor. 5 years exactly for Osiris to resurrect, from the 5th of May 1936 to the 5th of May 1941. Exactly 5 years for the emperor, 5th day and the 5th month. The accurate observation is that the esoteric character of the mythos Osiris, Asar, has manifested in the historical Emperor Haile Selassie I. As was said, this has been made clear with detail in our full-length documentary, The Master of Ceremonies. In this documentary, we will reveal that the Emperor Haile Selassie I has a specific alignment with a little spoken of Kushite deity, Neter, known as Apedemek. The conquering line hath prevailed.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know I speak in behalf of all of my fellow Americans in welcoming His Imperial Majesty back to the United States. Since His Majesty visited the United States nearly a decade ago, we have seen one of the most extraordinary revolutions in history, and that has been the appearance on the world scene of 29 independent countries in the short space of less than 10 years, including over 150 million people. The conference recently held in His Majesty's capital served, I think, to bring together in a great cooperative movement the people of most of these countries. And the success of that conference was due in no small part to the leadership of our distinguished guest. His efforts to move his country forward and provide a better life for its people, and his efforts throughout the world, which stretch back over 30 or 40 years. For all of this, Your Majesty, we take the greatest pride in welcoming you here. You do us honor, and I can assure you that there is no guest that we will receive in this country that will give a greater sense of livelier pride and satisfaction to the American people than your presence here today. Your Majesty, you're most welcome.
In the case of the Treaty of Ujali, here is a power, a foreign power, at the time a modern foreign power, which had been on extremely friendly terms with Menelik. Menelik throughout thought of himself as a friend of Italy and Italy as an ally of Ethiopia. So he had every reason to enter an agreement with these people in good faith. And of course, the treaty was not undertaken in good faith, and the person who was singularly suspicious of the good faith of the Italians was Empress Titu from the start. And the disputed article, very roughly, said in the Amharic that the Italians would, upon request of the Ethiopian side, represent Ethiopian interests in Europe. On the Italian version, the article roughly had the provision that Italy had exclusive rights to represent Ethiopia in any foreign relations. This was, of course, a major limitation on Ethiopian sovereignty. Titu saw it immediately. Menelik saw it thereafter. Both were utterly determined that whatever it took, they would not accept this version of the treaty. He prepared the diplomatic ground in a very painstaking way. And in the course of carrying out the diplomatic struggle, Menelik also made careful preparations for the war.
The emancipation of slavery came to the British West Indies in 1834, the 1st of August. While in the United States of America, this process took place in the year 1863. Yet still, in 1884, 1885, the Congo Conference, also known as the Berlin Conference, took place in Germany. This was a gathering of the European colonialists of the day, and it is at this conference that they decided to carve up and divide Africa amongst themselves. This became what is known as the Scramble for Africa. in Abyssinia, the 17th of August 1844. Born of the kingdom of Shor, was Haile Mariam, aka Abba Dagnu, who became the world-renowned Menelik II, Emperor of Abyssinia, Ethiopia, Land of Judah. In 1866, he became the king of the province of Shor, after he escaped from Magdala at the fortress of Emperor Tewodros II. He proclaimed himself Emperor of Abyssinia on the 25th day of March, 1889, after the death of his predecessor, Emperor Johannes IV, who was killed on the battlefield. On the 3rd of November 1889, Emperor Menelik II was crowned Negusa Nagas, King of Kings, at the Church of St. Mary on Mount Entoto. Ras Mokenen, father of the young Haile Selassie, was the chief representative of Emperor Menelik II and hero of Adowa. In 1896, the Italian army was utterly defeated at Adowa. All of Africa was colonialized at such time. Even Liberia was a creature of the United States of America. Ethiopia preserved its independence. Emperor Menelik gave the Italians Meneliks, Empress Taitu and Ras Mokenen, plus the Ethiopian warriors, united to destroy Rome. According to the legend, Kedes Girugis, Saint George, joined the battle against the enemy. The Lion of Judah hath prevailed. The title, the Lion of Judah, like the title, the King of Kings, belongs to the Solomonic line of Ethiopian kings. After 1870, the imperial flag with the Lion of Judah was established. After the defeat of the Italians at Adwa, Menelik II hoisted the red, gold, and green red upstand on the 6th of October, 1897. After he passed in 1913, the imperial flag returned with the Lion of Judah. The lion has always been a symbol of strength and power in the ancient African system of monarchy. Haremakhet, also referred to as the Sphinx, is seen with the body of a lion and the head of a human monarch. Some say that it is that of an empress. Empress Hatshepsut is seen in the form of a lion, the lioness. King Akhenaten and many others throughout the ancient world portray themselves in the fashion of the King of Beasts. In culture and theology, some of the more earlier known deities are seen in the fashion of the lion. Tefnut, wife of Shu, in the ancient Kemetic mythos is seen as a lion. Sekhmet, the daughter of Ra and the eyes of the same, is the fierce lioness goddess Neter. Even kingdoms and nations that are not known for having lions have portrayed the beast in flags, coat of arms, etc. In the Bible, the messianic figure is seen as the Lion of Judah. The 23rd day of July, 1892, as Ra, the sun, begins its journey towards Leo, the constellation of the Lion. At this very moment, Liege Tafari was born the son of the great Ras Mokene and Wazirio Yeshimagat, born in the city of Harar, considered one of the holiest cities in Islam. The wise mind of the young Tafari earned him the title of the Dejamak at the age of 13, plus governance of several provinces at a very young age, to include Harar, Sidam, and Garvey. On the 27th day of September, the feast of Maskal, the commemoration of the finding of the true cross of Christ, 1916, he took the title of Ras and became regent to the throne of Ethiopia, Abyssinia. At that time, Princess Zaditu, the daughter of Menelik II, became Empress Zaditu, Empress of Ethiopia. Rastafari, although regent, was the power behind the government. This was made plain by Empress Zaditu herself. As regent, he toured Europe on diplomatic missions, and because of his shrewd and wise outlook, he managed to place Ethiopia into the League of Nations. Remember that the League of Nations was made up of predominantly European countries. Ethiopia was an independent African country amongst the colonializers of the rest of Africa.
Yes. Could you talk a bit about the day of the coronation?
Yes, my coronation day was very memorable to me. Not only we had Ethiopian participants in the event, but also a lot of foreign emissaries partook in the celebration of the coronation day.
The coronation itself was a Coptic service, Your Imperial Majesty.
They are the Coptic, but also the Ethiopian bishop. They are with the Coptic churchmen.
In 1930 was a memorable day in the history of Ethiopia. Since the early hours of that morning, all in Addis Ababa began to prepare for the impressive event of the morning. The Emperor and Empress Manen had already spent the hours since the night before in prayer and meditation with the priests at the most holy altar within St. George's Cathedral, the largest church in the capital. Through the early morning, the chanting of priests continued. Outside the church, and nearly all over Addis Ababa, devoted subjects were dancing and chanting praise songs for the new emperor in Amharic. The son of Ras Makonnen, Haile Selassie, will feed us. His justice is like that of an angel. May God give long life to Haile Selassie, the child of our country. The ritualistic ceremonies of the coronation were performed in a large auditorium adjacent to the west side of the cathedral, which had been especially constructed for the occasion. Shortly after 7:30 a.m., His Imperial Majesty, attired in white silk communion robes, entered the ceremonial hall from the church with an escort of aides and the clergy, chanting in the old Coptic language a processional hymn. The spiritual vestment is worn by the Archangel Michael. The precious chasuble is worn by Michael. Took his place on the throne. Thereupon the ceremony began. The Coptic Archbishop of Ethiopia, representing His Holiness the Pope of Alexandria, with his throaty voice, announced, "Ye princes and ministers, ye nobles and chiefs of the army, ye professors and priests, ye people of Ethiopia, look ye upon our Emperor Haile Selassie I, descended from the dynasty of Menelik II, who was born of Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, a dynasty perpetuated without interruption from that time to King Haile Selassie and to our times." The emperor was then vested with the 7 ornaments of the coronation, including his gold sword studded with precious stones, a diamond-encrusted ring, 2 traditional lances, the imperial scepter, and a golden globe of the earth, the imperial vestments, and at last came the magnificent crown. 7 differently scented ointments of ancient prescription were received on the imperial head, brow, and shoulders, one with each of these ornaments. The final ceremony was a grand tour of the cathedral by the emperor and empress, who was also crowned, but with less elaborate rites. They were escorted by the priests and bishops, princes and high dignitaries, Ethiopian bishops and priests from all over Ethiopia, and a large number of Coptic deacons, carrying palm branches and chanting in mighty volume. Hosanna, blessed be the King of Israel. Blessed is he who cometh in the name of the Lord.
On the 1st of November 1930, Emperor Haile Selassie I unveiled the statue of Menelik II riding triumphant, Battle of Adwa hero. This was the 25th anniversary of himself, Emperor Haile Selassie I, being given the title Dideshemash when he was 13 years of age in 1905. This unveiling of the statue of his great predecessor, Menelik II, on the 1st of November 1930 was done the day before the coronation of himself, Emperor Haile Selassie I, on the 2nd of November 1930, which is exactly one day shy of the 41st anniversary of the coronation of the very same Emperor Menelik II, which took place on the 3rd of November 1889 in the Entoto Mountains. The conquering line hath prevailed.
The Italian poor and the unemployed were promised a place in the sun, with free land and an easy fortune in the conquered empire. The mechanical power of Italy's armory was Mussolini's guarantee of a quick, clean war with few Italian casualties. As the chemical warfare service shipped poison gas throughout the summer, troop ships left Naples and Genoa, bound for Suez, Mosiah, and Mogadishu. The Italian soldiers sincerely believed they were sailing to liberate and civilize Ethiopia. The fascist propaganda machine had worked hard, pounding home a message of warlike, savage Ethiopians, of a society where millions of slaves longed for freedom, a country rich in resources and ripe for invasion. War materials flowed steadily from Italian industry to the ports of Massawa and Mogadishu. Boats queued at the docks, waiting to land supplies for the most powerful army Africa had ever seen. 6,000 machine gunners, 150 tanks, 700 pieces of artillery, 150 aircraft, and huge supplies of ammunition passed through the docks before the invasion began. During the next 6 months, the shipments of men and armaments would increase 4 times.
At his coronation, Emperor Haile Selassie I was crowned with the titles of King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and the Lion of the tribe of Judah. A unique coronation, diverse even from the god Menelik. He is the king that wore the triple crown, plus coronated Lion of Judah.
Before they set out on the 6-week march into the northern mountains, the armies paraded before the emperor in the age-old ritual of Ethiopian war. Ras Mulugeta, hero of Adwa, approached Haile Selassie. Jan Hoy, I was killing Italians before you were born. Now I march into battle once again. I await you on the battlefield. He saluted the emperor and left with his 80,000 men on the long march north. All day, the warriors paraded before the emperor, boasting of their bravery in past battles. But Haile Selassie knew that the invasion had brought a new kind of warfare to Ethiopia. These old battles had been fought in the old way, hand to hand, from dawn to dusk, won and lost in a single day.
The warriors gathered from all parts of Ethiopia, united with their emperor against the fascist aggressors. Mussolini shouted his orders from Italy, Emperor Haile Selassie I was on the front line of the battlefield.
Badoglio had turned to poison gas and the bombing of civilian targets to speed up his civilizing mission. He wanted no awkward European witnesses from the International Red Cross to see the victims of bombing raids and the flesh blistered by gas.
This was not the style of war like that of Adawa. This was a war of heavy artillery, illegal substances, example, mustard gas, which was banned by the Geneva Convention after World War I.
He drove north to the front to consult his commanders and rally the dejected troops.
I have a memory where the Italians are there in their tank with their military, with their then up-to-date military equipment. And the Ethiopians are there with their spears and their horses. And there was a sense that there is no way that they're going to be able to combat that mechanistic sort of force. And although as a child, I couldn't quite take this on board, I could imagine now as an adult how desperate the emperor must have felt, and so much courage, so much bravery, and so little ability, really, to defend yourself.
Ancient Kush, Herma, 2500 BCE. Napata, Ancient Meori, Ta-Seti. Ancient Kush and Ancient Kemet are one people, Smai Tawe. They share the same Netaru. They share the same gods. But there is one Netar, one God, that is unique to the south, that is unique to Kush, that is unique to Nubia. It is the lion-headed triple crown god, Apedemek. Although unique to Kush, Apedemek is an ancient form of Asar, also known as Osiris. This is why at times Aset or Isis is seen as his wife. He is Osiris lionized. This has been made obvious as he wears the crown of Osar, the triple crown of Osiris. Apedemek is also seen with 3 lion heads on his human figure, 3 in 1 and 1 in 3. Although he is not referred to as the Lion of Judah, he is seen as the lion-headed snake in the very same way that the Lion of Judea is portrayed. It is also ancient. But the outstanding characteristic of Apedemek is that he is the god that goes on the front line of the war. He is the god of war that leads his troops into battle. He is the conqueror, the conquering lion, the triple-crowned lion-headed god, Apedemek.
Your Imperial Majesty, I'd like you to talk about your appearance before the League of Nations when you pleaded for your country in 1936.
የተቻለንን ለመዋጋት ቆርጠን ተነሳን። ለምንዋጋበት ብዙ እርዳታ አላገኘንም። ፋሺስት ላደረገው ነገር ለመመከት
Yes, the Ethiopian people, as well as myself, fought as much as we could on the ground, the fascist aggressors. But as it is well known, the fascists were well armed. They had the latest weapons. They had air power. Ethiopia had possessed none. After losing the battle in the front, we thought we should start another battle, a political battle at the League of Nations. You have heard of the speech I have made and of the appeal I have made to the League of Nations in 1936.
Emperor Haile Selassie I appeared before the General Assembly of the League of Nations on the 30th day of June, 1936. The book of Zephaniah chapter 3 in the Bible speaks of the Lord gathering all nations together to pour out on them his wrath and indignation. It also speaks of him speaking unto them in a pure language from beyond the river of Ethiopia, as Haile Selassie I is the only head of state to speak before the body at Geneva, to speak before the League of Nations, which is the gathering of the heads of the world. At this time in 1936, they violated Article 16. Article 16 represents the whole aspect of collective security. He spoke to them in Amharic, the language from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, to fulfill such scriptures. Article 16 represents the 16 pieces that Asar, Osiris, was cut into. And this is why the Emperor of Ethiopia officially was away from the throne for exactly 5 years, the time frame given for the resurrection of Asar, from the 5th of May 1936 to the 5th of May 1941, may be in the 5th month and the 5th day.
I am here to claim justice, he said. What reply shall I take back to my people? There was no answer, and there could be none. The League was dead. So, said the Emperor, it is us today, it will be you tomorrow.
The year that Haile Selassie went into Britain, 1936, is referred to as the year of the 3 kings. For that year, Britain had 3 kings, one after the other, the very same year that the King of Kings came into Britain. He made his residence at Bath, Fairfields, And on the 10th of June, 1940, he prepared himself to return to the battlefield, to return to Ethiopia, to rejoin the war on the front line. After shrewdly securing weaponry and soldiers, and a diplomatic agreement with the Allied forces, Emperor Haile Selassie re-entered Ethiopia to lead the troops into battle. Apedemek. Let us keep in mind that after the emancipation of slavery in the West, the European powers still gathered themselves together to carve Africa up like a pie, like a cake. Remember that all the African countries went under the colonial grip. New countries were even created as empires and states and tribes were divided and separated into different groups. Abyssinia, Ethiopia, withstood the test of the onslaught of the European enslavers. We give thanks for Emperor Johannes on the battlefield. We give thanks for Emperor Theodorus on the battlefield, the lions of Judah, Menelik II, Ras Mokenen, Empress Taitu, lions and lionesses, conquering and to conquer. We give thanks on the battlefield to resist the Italian, to hold back and ward off the British, to keep Ethiopia free. Emperor Haile Selassie I, as was said, unique as he was coronated with the Triple Crown and coronated the Lion of the tribe of Judah. He is the fulfillment of the prophecy of the book of Revelation chapter 5, verse 5. No one found worthy but the Lion of the tribe of Judah. He represents Apedemek, who wears the triple crown. He represents Apedemek, who is seen with 3 heads, as he is Haile Selassie, which means the power and the might of the Holy Trinity, the Holy Tree, the 3 in 1 and the 1 in 3. He represents Apedemek, as Apedemek is the lion-head god that goes to the front line of the battle, that leads his troop into war, just like Kedos Girogis, St. George, as he also is represented in the energy and the presence of Emperor Haile Selassie I, conquering and to conquer. Apedemek is Asar, the same Osiris, and Haile Selassie is the same, the master of ceremonies. His humility and supreme wisdom was on display for the international community to witness during the invasion of the Italian government. Their weaponry and machinery totally outranked that of the Ethiopians. It was a total mismatch. But the courage and the bravery of the Ethiopians was proven to the world. Hundreds and thousands of planes and tanks could not crush and dominate the barefoot warriors with swords and spears and sticks.
And now to present our eminent guest, the honorary chairman of our Congress, Dr. Billy Graham.
Your Imperial Majesty, Bishop Debelius, delegates, observers, friends, ladies and gentlemen, when we were deciding about the program of this conference, there was one item that I was asked a little bit about, and that was what chief of state we might invite to come and greet us in the name of Christ. And we thought of several, but the one that kept coming back to our thoughts and our minds was that great country of Ethiopia, the land of the Queen of Sheba, referred to in the Old Testament as Punt, and we remembered the story in the book of Acts about the Ethiopian nobleman that was converted to Christ, baptized, and went back to Ethiopia with the gospel. And since that day, Christian kings and emperors have ruled in that enchanting and beautiful country. 35 years ago, there came to the throne Emperor Haile Selassie I. He established a written constitution. He established a parliament, a modern system of communication, built roads, hospitals, schools, and universities. And then the whole world became aware of him when, during the heroic days of the war, His Majesty is the protector of the state's Ethiopian Orthodox Church and is head of the church. And when he returned to his country on May the 5th, 1941, on that historic day, he announced to the world that in Ethiopia, Christian ethics in government, liberty of conscience, and democratic institutions would prevail in his country. And so we give a warm and hearty welcome to our distinguished guest this morning, His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I of Ethiopia.
In 1963, the Organization of African Unity was formed. The Great Africa Hall, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the 25th day of May, African Liberation Day. 32 free independent African states, including the ancient Ethiopia, gathered together for the first time in thousands of years. Under one roof, to speak of a United States of Africa going forward. Emperor Haile Selassie I was key and very integral in the independence liberation struggle for the rest of Africa. It is because of Ethiopia's stance in the 1930s why the other African countries could have gained their independence. Ghana, Togo, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I is the world's greatest statesman. He is the only head of state to speak to both the League of Nations and the United Nations, Earth's rightful ruler. The Guinness Book of World Records declared that Haile Selassie I is the most decorated personality in the world. Thousands of titles and orders that has been given unto the king, nationally and internationally. In 1966, the Honorable Emperor gave 31 gold medals to the heads of those who caught the vision, Ras Tafari, in Kingston, Jamaica, in King's House. As an international statesman, Haile Selassie I was given the highest seat in any audience that he was present. Even when he gathered with other heads of state, his seat was the highest in the room. As one BBC commentator said, the Lion of Judah has rooted out all of his enemies, conquering and to conquer. Apedemek.
It is good that you are here to record this picture of me in my palace garden at Addis Ababa. People who see this throughout the world will realize that even in the 20th century, with faith, courage, and a just cause, David will still beat Goliath.
ባከናወነውም ሲመዘን አሁን በምንገኝበት ዓለም ያሉትን ብዙ ችግሮች ለማስወገድ ያለው ችሎታ ተስፋ የተደረገበትን ያህል እየተዳከመ የሄደ ነው።
On the 27th day of August 1975, the very first official news report was that Haile Selassie I has gone missing. Since then, he has not officially been seen or heard from again. We give thanks for the Lion of the tribe of Judah. We give thanks for the conquering Lion, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, who defend Ethiopia from the invaders. Give thanks. Apedemek.